Hey guys, this is Vic from Grasping the Market and welcome to our market briefing. Today we had a very marginal change versus yesterday. Uh, Regarding the larger time frame, there's no change. We trade within last week's range. But on the daily, you see that there was a brief exploration below yesterday's range. But as we will see in a minute on the market profile, it was a quick rejection at the open. So it was the market like validating that there was nothing there. So the follow through was non-existent. You can see on the 30-minute continuous chart that now the market is in a balancing mode. We will see that on the daily, but it's good always to have the general picture with more detail of the continuous chart. And you can see initially it was trending up, but now it seems to be holding ground around the 3000 level. So as we mentioned recently, yesterday constituted a look above and fail on this range. So as we return to the range, you would expect that if this rotation is valid, the likely destination will be 2975. However, the what you saw today towards the end of the session is that if you're approaching the halfback of a range and you give back a lot like you did today, I would question. I think that decreases a little bit the odds of rotating back down, and possibly you're facing an extension back outside the range. So therefore, this would constitute backing and filling. But for the time being, you have the daily excess there that needs to be erased for that to happen. Now, on the market profile, you see that first of all, I would like to talk about the overnight because you had a very sharp move towards the end of yesterday's session, merely liquidation. You saw that the market was getting, well, judging by the triple high, it was getting too long, and the triple high not being able to take by one tick the previous overnight, that was very suspicious. So as the liquidation started, you created a secondary and then a third distribution towards the end. Now overnight traded almost entirely below that. So the overnight was very short, but this colleague asked me about my view on the overnight and the market this morning, and he asked me if I was considering at all the overnight activity. Well, now I see why he was asking that, because when you open up the profile for the overnight, you see a strong extension at the open with responsive buying. Then late in the session, you try it again, very sharp move, and then it bounces back. So the fact that you had this responsive buying and then on a second try with a lot of backing and filling, this backing and filling was a lot. Look at the rejection at the top, which was actually just at settlement from yesterday. You have a second try, and this time you don't even take the singles, and you manage to bounce back. And the final piece of information there is that you managed to establish the POC up here after training all this way down. So yeah, that would have been considered a very positive for the market into the open. And as you can see at the open, there was a quick probe below and immediately push back in. So yeah, that would have been a very good long position to take. Now it was a difficult at the same time because if you follow us frequently, what our focus here would be on the lower. I'll call the lower distribution these two distributions because this was just a little extension at the last 10 minutes of the market. So the lower distribution, yeah, as long as you keep the double distribution and you validate it and you peel acceptance, you are validating this move. Now, this is what happened today, but notice that today you have that validation, but the whole day you're trending up. So it's a very difficult market to trade because if you go long, you're going against the, let's say, immediate larger time frame suggestion, which is the daily, which is that the market is going down. You just fail at the top. Why would you go long at the middle of the lower distribution? But yet the overnight gave a good clue, and the initial probe below and pushback gave a good clue. So at least if you manage to go long in this area, you were protected. And I think that's the only place that the long was a good idea, because further in, now your risk goes too high. It can always go back and forth like it did on ABC, or even here, DEF. You can do a little bit of back and forth. And technically, as long as you don't take this, the market is negative. And as long as you don't extend the low from the morning, you are holding this ground. So you see that in a rotation, well, it left a weak high, very close to yesterday's halfback, and then on the rotation now you had a rejection below settlement. So it's the same effect that you had here. You have higher lows, and higher lows with double checking references. So here you probe below, push back inside, build all this value inside, and then you try back below a reference, which is settlement, and you push back up not only the reference, but you don't touch the singles. So this was another good long opportunity. As you may have seen towards the close, there was a lot of buying on the stocks and the equities, and this is solely because of some news that came about the Fed increasing liquidity of the repo. So that the market is taking that as a positive and is pushing back. So our focus for tomorrow definitely is on this, assessing continuation from this late move. I'll keep an eye on this double distribution. If the upside is strong, this double distribution will close. And what I would focus is this green arrow that I have here is the POC from yesterday, and it's exactly where the liquidation break originated from. If you close the double distribution and you get acceptance around this level, I think the odds are pretty good that you will take this uber weak high. And if you do that, guess what? You erase the daily excess that we saw on the daily chart. And I think that from there, we're not that far from the contract all-time highs. So focus for tomorrow, assessing continuation of this late move with special attention to this double distribution and Tuesday's POC. So trade well, pay attention to your risk, and have a great evening.